Hey guys, welcome to the July 3rd Wild and Free Tribe. Yes, I officially changed the name. I've been waiting and slowly doing a soft change, and I just finally decided to change it and make it happen. So, welcome to our first team call as the Wild and Free Tribe, previously known as the Beauty for Ashes Society. Today I'm talking to you about failing forward and mastering the entrepreneurship roller coaster, because it absolutely is one. Melanie Metro posted this photo a while back, and I thought it was so perfect for explaining kind of what we do and what we see. And a lot of times people just see, with top coaches or anybody really that we idol. It can be pastors, it can be a teacher, a professor, parents even, and they just see this tip of the iceberg, which is success, right? What they don't see is the dedication, the hard work, all the good habits they've had to put in place, disappointments when things happen, the sacrifices they've had to make, the failure, because we all experience that. Every single person in life will experience failure at some point, and then persistence to keep going just to get to the success. So I wanted to share that. First, I want to say congratulations to our June Success Club earners. Sarah Deck hit SC12, and then Oma, Rachel, Anna, and Elizabeth all hit 5. And Elizabeth, it was her first time, so congratulations to her. A little bit about me. I think you all know me, but just for the few of you guys that may not, I am a mom of 2 beautiful but very active boys. They're 2 and 4.5. I'm a wife, a missionary, a student, and the founder of the Wild and Free Tribe. I've been a coach for just over 2 years. And the reason why I share these things is because I am a busy person as well. A lot of times people, they think that I just sit here at the computer all the time. But I have a lot of roles and a lot of things that I'm juggling up in the air, as I know many of you on our team are as well. So I totally get where you're at. I've been a coach for just over 2 years, like I just said. My monthly salary is right about the same as my husband's monthly salary now, and sometimes it's a bit over, which is a huge blessing. But it took some time to get there. I am a 2-star diamond coach. All that means is that I've helped 2 personally sponsored coaches achieve and maintain diamond rank for at least 6 weeks consecutively at the same time. So I could have had one and then I could have had the other. It doesn't matter. It has to be 6 weeks at the same time and hold it. And it's 1 on each side. So here are those are maybe some of my successes, but here are some of my perceived failures. If you were to just look at this list, you would be like, wow, she's failed a lot. And this isn't even like the half of it, guys. There's so much more. But so my house is usually a complete disaster. As a mom and a wife, I probably look like a mess to the outside world. I'm often feeling like I don't live up to my potential in some given area, whether that is applying myself to read a certain book, or to stay on top of organization or laundry. I mean, it could be any area, but and usually there's something that I'm like, oh, I could be doing better in this. And I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as a good thing to want to be better. But I also know that there's no such thing as being perfect. And so, sometimes things have to slip by the wayside, but then I just remind myself, I could be better in this specific area, but it means I'd have to give up that. And that is a greater priority to me at this time, if that makes sense. I've had to prioritize my life and then change my activities based off of those priorities. After achieving SC14 in my first month coaching, SC8 in my second month coaching, I had 0 points my third month coaching, and I lost my Success Starters ticket. For those who don't know, Success Starters is if you hit Success Club 5 or higher in your first 3 months of coaching, you get a free ticket to Summit. So I was banking on that. I signed up to be a coach like 2 weeks before Summit in 2014. And so I knew I could not go at that point. I mean, I had a 7-week-old, and I was in the middle of my very first round of 21 Day Fix. In fact, I think it was only a weekend when it started. And so I watched it all as much as I could online. They streamed like the general sessions. And so I watched all of that, and I promised myself while I was watching it that the next year I would be at Summit. And after hitting Success Club my first 2 months, I was sure I was going to get that ticket. Being a pastor's wife, we didn't have a whole lot of money, and I didn't want to pay for it, to be honest. But after I failed at that, and it really, really sucked, it kind of hit me hard. I told myself that I was just going to keep going, and I was going to make enough money to make sure that I could pay for it, and make sure that I was there, because I had made that promise to myself. So that was probably my first big blow as a coach, where I was like, man, I suck at life. So, but I picked up and kept going and hit SC10 or higher all the way through March 2015. So for 6 months or more, I hit SC10 or higher every single month after that, because I was like, this is it. I can't do that again. No playing around. Because I started coaching in June, I was on the wait list to go to Cancun. That was our Success Club trip of the year for 2015. They went in March 2015. And because I had signed up in 2014, halfway through the year, it was already waitlisted. My coach had told me, don't worry, just get all your points. You'll be able to go. I was able to go last year, like, don't worry. And then I got enough points, and the whole 6 months or whatever of 2014, I worked and told Josh, like, we're going to make it to Cancun. Like, we're going to do this. And I was so upset when I had enough points to pay for it, but I never made it off the wait list because I was so far down. They used to do it differently, and it was based purely off of when you signed up on the wait list. But now it's a little bit different. Thank goodness. It makes it way more fair, but it really stunk watching my coach, and then she couldn't take her husband, so she ended up taking my success partner. So I'm watching my success partner, and I'm watching my coach in Cancun, a trip that I should have been able to earn, but I wasn't able to. And that was another time that it like really kind of sucked for me as a coach. And I told myself then that I would absolutely be on the cruise in 2016, which I did. So I often feel like I should be further along. I am no stranger to the comparison game. It's easy for me to look at other people that have been coaches just as long as me, or even shorter than me, that have gotten to my same place or further along. And I'm like, gosh, why can't I be there? Like, what have I been missing? What am I not doing? I had set a goal to pay off our car and all of my student debts by now. But even though I've made about $27,000, I'm still not even close to either goal. My first 6 months, I didn't have a plan at all for my money. And so it just came in and went out, just like it seems all of our money does when there's no budget in place. And it's frustrating to me to look at how much I've made and know that I haven't even barely touched those goals that I've set financially. Just because, well, for instance, we are in missions now, and so now my Beachbody income pays for our mortgage. So that's a huge chunk of my income every month now going out towards mortgage that was never in the plan in the beginning. But I'm okay with it because God's provided for us in this way. And so it's been a learning lesson, but it is still frustrating watching other people do things and be like, gosh, I should be further along in this. It's so frustrating, you know? And it seems like no matter whatever financial goal you hit, it's easy to get frustrated with where you are. You may have said, you know, I just want to pay for my Shapeology in the beginning, and now you're making $250 a month, let's say, you know, so you're easily outpaying your Shakeology, you're making some extra money, but you can still get frustrated with that, looking around at other people and say, well, I wish I was making 500, or I wish I was making 1,000. Like, no matter what you have, it can easily, if you're comparing yourself and playing a comparison game, it can easily seem like not enough. So I had someone switch coaches and was actually pretty bitter about it after letting them fall through the cracks due to my lack of organization and schedule. I wasn't very organized with, and I'm still working on coming up with a better organizational system. But this person was really upset and basically felt like I had completely let them down. I was maybe just after it for the sale. And as a person, not even just as a coach, but as a person, that hurt me because I never want somebody feeling like that. And so it hurt me, and it kind of shook me. And I was like, God, am I doing this for the right reasons? Like, am I letting more people fall through the cracks that I don't even know about? Like, it just kind of shook me, and it made me question everything that I had done. And that may sound minor to somebody, but to me, as a Christian woman and somebody that I try to lead with integrity, that really, really hurt me when I found out about it. And then it made me think, gosh, how many more have done that I don't even know about, if that makes sense. And then this last month, June 2016, this girl right here, after 22 months of hitting Success Club, I was just 2 months shy of Success Club All-Star Legend, which is 24 months in a row of hitting Success Club. I missed it last month. I had so many returns, it's not even funny. And I ended the month at -2 points. -2. And that's not because I didn't sell anything. It's because I just had returns, and things happen. Like, things happen. We all are going to have good months. We all are going to have bad months. And I was telling my success partners on the very last day, I told them, I was like, you know what? I've prayed about this, and I'm going to do my power hour. I'm going to reach out to everybody. I had already followed up with everybody. I had already talked to everybody who had ever bought 21 Day Fix to see if they wanted to bump up to Extreme. I had literally crossed off like everything on the list that you could think of. And I told them, I was like, I'm going to work as hard as I can today, but I am not going to stress about it. I am not going to put myself in some crazy funk about it, because like, these things happen. They just do. And I have to believe that like God has my back, and that if I'm doing things the right way, that I'm going to be prosperous. And to be honest, I haven't done my tracker. I was supposed to do it today, but I worked on these slides instead. But to be honest, I made at least my normal amount, if not more, even though I didn't make hardly anything in commissions this last month because of all the returns. And so, like, that's, to me, that's still huge praise, because I'm watching, some of my coaches fall off, or some of our downline coaches fall off through cancellations and stuff like that. And it's really easy to get really frustrated. I remember this time last year, I went from being a diamond coach from November 20th of 2014 until the first week of June. I dropped because one of my coaches canceled her Shakeology order for a short period of time. She was pregnant and she wasn't drinking it every day like she should be. And so she had an oversupply. So she was like, I'm just going to drop. I have my birth this month anyway. She's like, I'm just going to cancel it. Well, her canceling meant I dropped an emerald on one side. And so for 1 week, I dropped rank, and I was freaking out because I went from being a diamond coach down to an emerald coach. And again, that may not seem like a big deal, but after I had held it for so long, it was so disheartening to me. And I ended up helping her out. I paid for a month of Shakeology for her so that she would stay on it just for me to keep my rank until I could figure things out. So she did that for me. And I came back up, but I remember going into Summit last year. So if any of you guys are going into Summit kind of feeling maybe a little bit beat up, or like, gosh, I hope this is the right move for me or whatever. I went into Summit feeling like I was so ready to throw in the towel. I was like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Like, I was so frustrated. And then because it felt like my business was stagnant. And I was telling my success partners this the other day that, you know, last week I was starting to feel that same way. I was like, you know, I'm just sitting here and it feels like I'm just stagnant, like I'm not going anywhere. But to be honest, I hit Success Club, or I hit Summit, and there was just this fire lit, not just within me, but there were 5 of us that went last year. And within all of us, like everybody who went, there was this huge fire that was lit in us. And like we killed it for several months after Summit. Like June or July was an awesome month for us because we still had another week of July last year after we came home from Summit. So July was an awesome month. August was an awesome month. September was an awesome month. And then, you know, the holidays hit. But I still rode the coattails from my big boom in Summit. And now I told my success partners, like, I'm really excited for that same thing to happen this year. So if you're going into it kind of like frustrated and feeling a little bit stagnant, like, be prepared for the Summit boom. There's just something that happens when you get around other like-minded people. It's like when you feel like spiritually drained and lost, and then you go to church and you're around other like-minded people and you just feel so encouraged when you leave. It's that same thing, but for the business, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And so I'm really, really excited for that. So this photo, Caleb Thomas put up several months ago. He made it, and it made me die laughing because it's 100% the way I feel like every day, every week, every month. It, like, the responses you get from me, I try not to be emotional, but a lot of times they can totally be based off of where I am in this picture. Okay, so I start in the morning. I'm like, good morning. Okay, yeah, let's do this. This is awesome. I'm putting things up. I'm getting crap done. Whoop, a little bump. No biggie, no sweat. Okay, this isn't so bad. All right, it's a good thing I'm positive because, you know, that sucks. And then I get up here and I'm like, oh, dear God, I'm going to die. Crap. This was so awful. It's not worth it. I'm dead. And then I'm like, okay, Lisa, pick yourself up. You're okay. You start following around and like, I'm lost. What the heck am I doing? Like, I know I had training for this, but really what in God's green earth is going on? No, really, I'm still lost. Like, what the heck? I'm trying everything I know. Where did I get a bike? Like, what's going on? I'm just hanging on for dear life. Here I go. Wait, why am I going this way? Yep, pretty sure I'm going the wrong way. That's like, you know, when coaches drop or challengers are like, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. You know, you're like, okay, I'm definitely going backwards. So that's awesome. And they stand up here at this little peak for half a second, you know, maybe you got a rank or you got a really high income for 1 week or something, and you're like, wow, look how far I've come. You look back from the beginning, right? And then you're like, boom, dead. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to try something new. Let's just jump off and see what happens. Screw it. And then crap. This never gets easier. I hate it. Wait a second. This isn't right. And then you're like jumping up this thing, and then you're climbing this really steep thing. I can see the top. I made it. Wait, this isn't it. Crap, falling. Done. I give up. Forget it. And then you get back up, right? No, really, I'm so done. How many times have you guys done that? Like, I'm so done. This is so frustrating. And then you get up here and something happens and you're like, yeah, it was totally worth it. And this isn't the end, guys. This is like this guy right here. You just have all of this happening again. Like, that is the entrepreneur roller coaster. It's a thing. They write books about it. It's just, this is what it is. There are really high highs and really crappy lows. Like, that's the best way I can put it. And the way you get out of those lows is by creativity, resiliency, and personal development. And I'm going to add in prayer. So through those things, and these aren't like written anywhere. These are just from my personal experience. Creativity, trying different things. So what I just tried did not work. So I'm going to try something different. Resiliency, being willing to brush yourself off, bounce back, and get back in the game. What was the third one I said? Personal development, helping to strengthen weak areas and strengthen even further your strong areas, and just instill belief. I think belief is a huge, huge part of it. Belief in yourself, belief in the business, belief in whatever you're needing at that moment, like whatever that could be. And then prayer, because we all need it. We need it in our business. We need it in our personal life. I'm already like really loving the Circle Maker, just because it's giving me a whole new look on prayer. And so, prayer over your teams, over your challengers, prayer over your business, over your finances, over your relationships, like just pray over all of it and move on. Okay. So all successful people experience failure. I'm sure you guys have all seen those videos. And if you haven't, spend an hour on YouTube, because that's what'll end up happening. You'll watch one and then you'll end up watching another and another and another. But spend an hour on YouTube watching, and use it as personal development one day if you want to, but watching stories of all the successful people that we know. Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, some of the presidents, Michael Jordan, Einstein, Van Gogh, like all these people, almost every successful person has these like really terrible failures in their life that could have just like destroyed them, basically. So Vince Van Gogh is probably the most depressing one I've ever heard. He failed as an art dealer, flunked his entrance exam into theology, and then was fired by the church after he tried missionary work and didn't cut the mustard. In fact, during his life, he seldom experienced anything other than failure as an artist. Although a single painting by Van Gogh would fetch in excess of $100 million today, in his lifetime, he only sold one painting 4 months before he died. 4 months before he died, one painting. That's all he sold. I didn't even see how much it was for. I would have to like figure out all the calculations as far as, you know, currency back then versus currency now. But one painting in his entire life. And like when we say Van Gogh, everybody immediately thinks painter, right? But he was like this huge missionary, theology school, art dealer dropout that never experienced success except for one painting. Before developing his theory of relativity, Albert Einstein encountered academic failure. One headmaster expelled Einstein from school, and another teacher predicted that he would never amount to anything. Einstein even failed his entrance exam into college. Okay, so like his parents were like, fine, we'll homeschool him. They homeschool him. Then he tries to go to college and flunked that. The most brilliant man we know flunked his entrance exam into college. Prior to dazzling the world with his athletic skill, Michael Jordan was cut from his sophomore basketball team, even though he captured 6 championships during his professional career. Okay, so yeah, sucked that in his sophomore year of high school, he was cut from the basketball team. And so he could have gone home then and said, like, forget it. Then he finally becomes a professional athlete. He gets 6 championships in his professional career. However, during that time, he missed over 12,000 shots, lost nearly 400 games, and failed to make 25 shots that would have been the winning basket. It would have won the game had he made those baskets. 25 of them. So every time he could have been like, man, that sucks. I'm a loser. I should just quit now. I should retire now, you know? But he didn't. And he was like known as the most popular, one of the best basketball players of all time. The point being, at some point, all great achievers, all successful people are tempted to believe that they're failures. But in spite of that, they persevere. In the space of adversity, shortcomings, and rejections, the successful hold on to self-belief and refuse to see themselves as failure. So how do they do that? I took these principles from John C. Maxwell's book, Failing Forward. If you haven't read it, you should. I'm planning on picking it up next. It's been on my list for a long, long, long time. It is on Audible less than 3 hours for the reads. That means the book has to be like this thick. Like so thin. It cannot be a very long read if it's less than 3 hours. So first principle, reject rejection. Achievers who persevere do not base their self-worth on their performance. They have a healthy self-image. How do you get that? Personal development, friends. That's not dictated by external events or factors. When they fall short, rather than labeling themselves as a failure, they learn from their mistakes in judgment or behavior. So they look at it and try to find the lesson in it. They don't say, I'm a failure. They don't say, I suck. They don't take it on themselves. They say that didn't work. Basically, that didn't work. Okay, so what do I need to do next time? Also, they don't point fingers. So this doesn't happen a whole lot in our business because we don't work directly with other people, like in teams in that way, unless you're maybe sharing challenge groups or something like that. But also, you could easily point your finger at your mentor coach or point fingers at your personally sponsored coaches for if you're dropping rank. But they don't point fingers. When people fail, they're often tempted to blame others for their lack of success. So like, it's because she dropped rank that I dropped rank. Well, yes, technically that is true. However, you should always be recruiting so that you have other people. You shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. You know what I'm saying? So instead of like blaming the other person, okay, I need to learn to make sure not to, put all my eggs in one basket. I need to make sure that I'm throwing a wide net. Okay, so in doing so, they sink into a victim mentality and cede their fate to outsiders. This sucks. This means you have no control, and pretty much all of us like to have some control in our life, right? If you didn't, you wouldn't be an entrepreneur. You would just be a follower and happy to like live life going along with somebody bossing you around, because then an outsider controls your fate. You have no responsibility, wash your hands, and you're done. This robs themselves of learning from their failures and also alienates them from others by refusing to take responsibility for mistakes. Luckily, that last part, I don't feel like anybody in our team does that. I don't think like people are like, no, it's because of her and thankfully, like I think we have a really great team culture. But the point being, I don't want anyone, to not be able to learn from their failures or learn from their mistakes. See failure is temporary. This is something I've really had to work on and learn. And it's funny because it's things that I told Josh when we were living overseas, and he would come up with back then he was dealing with anxiety, and he'd start with like all these crazy notions. And one thing that I would always tell him is, okay, say that worst case scenario happens. Would you die? Like that was really my thing that I told Josh all the time. And then now when I experience failure, a lot of times I'm like, or perceived failure, I'm like, oh my gosh, and then this is going to happen. And I just like get in my head and I freak out. So for instance, not hitting Success Club this last month, horrible, sucks big time. However, I start thinking like, oh my gosh, my whole team's not going to think of me as a leader. They're not going to respect me. They're going to think that I was a total slacker and and now I can't hit elite this year. And now I can't Like I was starting to label all these things on myself that no one else put on me but me. Like I put them on me. And I made this failure, this one event, like the turning point in my history, when it doesn't need to be. It's temporary. So people who personalize failure see a problem as a whole they're permanently stuck in, whereas achievers can see any predicament as temporary. One mindset leads to wallowing in failure, and the other looks forward to success. By putting mistakes into perspective, achievers are able to see failure as a momentary event, not a symptom of a lifelong epidemic. So again, in this, if you ever feel like you might be dealing with putting things in perspective and seeing it as temporary, or seeing like how damaging is this falling down, this failure, and then just ask yourself, okay, is this going to affect me in 5 years? This one event, like, does it determine my future in 5 years? Is it going to affect me and my family in 20 years? is it going to kill me? Like, but if the answer is no to any of those questions, then you're probably okay. You can move forward from it, you know? Set realistic expectations. So I want to be careful with this one. When I say set realistic expectations, it means set lofty goals, but not ridiculous goals, I guess I could say. Like, yes, set audacious, huge, God-fearing goals, like God-sized goals, okay? But don't say things like, you know, I want to make $1 million in a year. Like, that's just setting yourself up for failure. So unrealistic goals doom people for failure. For instance, if a person hasn't exercised in 5 or 10, 20 years, then making it to the gym or working out like 3 times a week may be a better goal than running a next month's marathon, because they'll die. Like that, will I die? Yes. See, like that's where that comes in. Also, some people insensibly expect to be perfect. So I'm a perfectionist. I'll admit it. I'm working on it. But everyone fails. So have to remember to expect those setbacks. And if I'm expecting them, not expecting them like waiting on them expectantly, but like knowing that they're coming, having it in mind, like at some point I'm going to experience a setback. Then it helps me to emotionally prepare for them. It was funny. I was talking to Josh maybe 2 days ago. Just recently, we realized that our oldest boy is like pretty sensitive. Now, when I say sensitive, I don't mean like, I don't know how to explain it, but like he's sensitive to things. He has a higher level of perception, and the reason why I found out was because he's super, super whiny, like super dramatic, and just everything is way blown out of proportion, way. However, we've been kind of putting off, he's had some warts on his fingers for a couple years. On this one finger, he has 2 warts. And we put him off for a long time. His doctor was like, oh, it's not a big deal. So finally, and a couple months ago, I wrote his new doctor and I was like, listen, it's been a couple years. Like, these things aren't going away. What can we do? And she said that we could use like the Band-Aid things that you put on them. Okay, great. So we did that. They fell off the first time. Then they came right back. I'm like, what the heck? So then we put on the Band-Aid things again. And then that time they didn't work. It didn't work. And we were out of town for a couple weeks. And so when we came back, like 2 days ago or so, we made an appointment for him and we took him. And actually Josh took him. And Josh on the way over said, okay, Kai, we're going to go in and freeze your warts. Now, we had mentioned it to him a couple times, like, hey, if this doesn't work, we may have to go into the doctor and freeze them. And he was always like, I don't want to, you know. And so Josh told him, and he explained it to him, and he said that when they froze the first one off, he was perfectly fine. But then by the time they got to the second one, then he was starting to experience some pain, but he was just like, but if you know Kai, that's not him. Like, everything that he does is like way up here. So for him, that little whining was like really mild. However, later that day, we were all proud of him because he like did not freak out. He was really good. Later that day, he's eating guacamole out of like the little cups. And as he takes a scoop, it falls onto the floor. And he literally goes, ah! And he starts freaking out. And I'm like, it's okay. Calm down, you know, and I pick it up and I clean everything up. And it's a constant battle of like, okay, buddy, like, is this a big deal? Did anybody get hurt? Is anybody bleeding? Is anything broken? And the answer was no to all of those things. And I'm like, okay, then we don't need to freak out. Like, let's just calm down. And then I turned to Josh and I said, you know, it's funny that he didn't freak out when it came to the warts, something that actually hurt, but yet guacamole falling was like the end of the world. And I said, you know, I think it was because you prepared him. So again, like sometimes just preparing ourselves emotionally for like, okay, at some point in the future, failure is going to come. You don't know when it's going to happen. Certainly we don't expect it every month. We don't expect it every day or every week. Like, but at some point it's going to come. Like, prepare yourself for that so that when it comes, like, to be honest, had this happened, I don't know, 6 months ago, I probably would have been in a ball of tears and not been able to talk about this yet. But I had already talked to my success partners and I'm like, I'm actually at peace. Like, I'm really at peace. If I miss this goal, like, it majorly sucks. Yes, hugely sucks. But I'm okay with it. Like, it is what it is. And I did everything that I could. Okay, so moving on. Focus on strengths. Don't invest a lot of time shoring up non-character flaws. Like, if they don't have to do with your character and they're just like little, we all have flaws and imperfections, right? Instead of spending a ton of time devoted to that, invest in your strengths. People operating from a position of strength enjoy a far lower rate of failure than those laboring in areas of weakness. You're built, like God designed you to give your talents to the world. So be diligent about finding expressions for those talents. So identify your strengths and talents and then capitalize on those. Like, I think that I am a decent teacher. However, I do not feel like I'm fantastic at inspiring everybody. I watch videos from Vanessa and I'm like, wow, well, I should have done that, but I just don't have the words in me. Like, I don't have that poetic whatever. Like, I'm very straight to the point, but I feel like I'm a decent teacher. So I try to capitalize on those points, if that makes sense. But find what you're really good at and capitalize on that for your team, for your challengers, for your posts, for everything having to do with your business. Like, capitalize on what you're good at. Vary approaches to achievement. So achievers keep trying and changing things up until they find something that works. Just because something works for one doesn't mean it'll work for everyone. So find what works for you. This is where creativity comes in. I struggle with creativity. If I were to use like 10 words to describe myself, creative probably wouldn't be one of those. I usually, whenever we're trying to like come up with names or like come up with things, I'm the one in the group that kind of takes a back seat when it comes to that. But I'm great with logistics and like laying out a plan, things like that. Like, I'm great when it comes to that. But when it comes to like creativity stuff, I'm like, whoa, not so great. Like, I might have an idea, but like, let's not put all your hopes and dreams in Lisa for that. So, so this is the part that I struggle with. So I do tend to hop from one thing that works for somebody else to another thing, to another thing, to another thing. And, somewhere along the way, luckily we work in a company that everybody tends to share what's working for them. So somewhere along the way, I find somebody that's similar to me, at least in that one area, and their method works for me as well. I may have to tweak a few things, but then that's pretty much it, if that makes sense. But it's constantly doing that and constantly trying new things. And I'm not always consistent in every single area, but I try really hard. But that is probably a little bit of an area for me to work on. And then the last one is bounce back. So rehashing missteps and blunders for too long sabotages your concentration and eats away at your self-confidence. When dealing with failure, achievers have short memories. They quickly forget the negative emotions of setbacks and press forward resiliently. While taking pause to learn from failures, achievers realize that the past can't be altered. So this is another thing that I used to tell Josh all the time. He would like focus on like what he should have said or done or whatever in a certain situation. And I'd be like, it's over now. Like, can't change it. So let's move on. And that's really kind of, it was funny because while we were in our missions talks this last few weeks, we were in Springfield doing some missionary training for the missionary side of our life. And one of the things they talked about was resiliency, because things happen in ministry in general, but even more so when you're in another culture, another context, another language, all of those things. And they talked about the importance of resiliency. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was those that have had to overcome hard obstacles when they were younger tend to be more resilient. So whether that was you lived in a divorced home and had to overcome something like that, or you didn't have one of your parents or either of your parents, or they divorced while you were young, or there was a really big death in the family when you were little that strongly impacted you. Like whatever it was while you were growing up, if you had some kind of difficulty growing up and you made it through, you tend to be more resilient, which is kind of cool because that gives you more bounce back. It means that you have that perspective of, okay, did it kill you? No, I made it through that, so I can make it through this. Does that make sense? Like you relate things back to past events and you think, okay, I made it through that. And we can even do that with God. Like God brought us through that, so I know he can bring me through this. And, keep moving on. So learn your lesson, keep moving on. So my practical steps for failing forward. Did I say that right? Practical steps to fail forward. Yes. Okay. Push very hard until the end, the very, very end, the last minute, not like the last day of the month or the last day of the year or whatever, and then say, oh, I didn't get close, I'll be okay. No, like push all the way to the end. Don't give up too soon, because there's been so many times where I felt like something was just impossible, but then that was when God stepped in. I prayed and I was like, God, Lord, if you know my heart, I've been working, just bring me the right people. God, give me favor. And all the right doors open and I hit a goal, or forward movement was made in my business, or I was reminded of the reason why I do what I do. Like when I'm right there at the end and I'm like, I'm going to give up, I just kept pushing and then like this message would pop in and it would just be so encouraging and it would fill my heart up. And I was like, okay, that's what I needed. Like, that's what I needed to hear. And then when I miss my goals and I fail or I fall forward, I know that I did all that I could. I laid it all out there and I can lay my head on my pillow at night and not have any regrets. I won't sit there what-ifing myself. I'm good with it because I know I did all that I could and it wasn't up to me. I mean, in the end, this is a partnership and it's a relationship. And so there's gives and takes. And when it comes to the economy as well, like there's gives and takes, there's ebbs and flows. And so I feel like if I know I did everything that I could, then I don't have to be upset at myself for any perceived failures. Then you miss your goal, right? You miss your goal, whether that's Success Club or earning enough money towards a trip or, having enough money to go on vacation by this date or whatever goal or plan you have set out for yourself. You miss this goal. So then you embrace the suck. Like, it is what it is. This is that whole you can't change the past. So stop trying to. Embrace the suck. Like, acknowledge this sucks. Like, it really blows. And there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, so you embrace it. When you miss a big goal, you just feel like you really screwed up. Somebody just told you that you're a horrible coach and, you just start questioning if you should really do it. Take a moment, embrace the suck, then step away from the computer, close your laptop, whatever you do, okay? Pray, say, Lord, this is what happened. Here's the reason why, because God, yes, he knows what happens, right? But he wants us to tell him. So God, this is what happens. This is how I feel. This really sucks. Okay. Lord, I need you to move in this way, X, Y, and Z. Then go and do something with your family. Go do a relaxing hobby. Get out. Go to the beach. Go to whatever makes you happy. Get your mind off of it. Go shopping at Target in the dollar section. Like, who cares what you do? Becca, I think one time told me that she lays in bed and scrolls Instagram. Like, whatever makes you happy, go for it, okay? Stay off of Facebook because you're going to end up comparing yourself to other coaches as you're, like, looking at their posts. You're like, oh, yeah, of course, So don't do that. But other than social media, like, go do something else. And then after that, I can usually see things with a clearer mind once I come back to it with fresh eyes. So, I may have to spend a few hours. I may spend a whole day. I definitely won't spend more than 24 hours because this is our business and we need to work it. But I may spend, up to 24 hours depending on how bad it sucked, and just go do something else and just believe, because I say in that prayer, Lord, when I come back, like, I'm going at this, so just help me with whatever it is, So that's embracing the suck. Then I find a lesson. Once I come back to it with fresh eyes, because if I do this in the midst of the suck, all I'm going to be doing is, sorry, I'm dying over here. I won't be able to identify the area. I can look at all the things and nitpick myself to death. But once I come back to it with fresh eyes, I try to identify just one area of improvement. It's easy to say, well, I should have done this, and should have done that, and shoulda. And one of the things my Christian counselor told, Josh and I, when we were going through counseling our first year of marriage, she said, don't shit on yourself. And I was like, excuse me? And she's like, don't shit on yourself. Like, all it's doing is, it never makes you feel better. It only sets you up to live up to some unrealistic expectation. And so find one area of improvement and then work on it. Like, you can only handle one thing at a time. So just work on that one area and improve upon it, whether that's personal development, whether it's training, whether it's accountability, whether it's fill in the blank. I mean, it depends on what that area is, right? Refocus on your accomplishments. That's my next thing that I do. So after I've embraced the suck, dealt with it, got away, come back, I found the lesson. I'm like, okay, here's where I need to improve. And then what I have to do, and I highly suggest you guys do as well, is go back and try and find the things that I did really well that month or that week or whatever. The things that I had done really well. Even now in my coaching career, whenever I'm like, this sucks, I should give up, then I think, well, I can't give up. I've got this awesome team underneath me and they're counting on me. Like, they need me. So that's one thing. I'm like, I've got an awesome team, Then the next one is like, okay, so what else have I done well? Well, I achieved Success Club up until this point every single month. And then I was like, and then like, what else have I done? Well, I've, started running these groups, and then I've stepped up to be a better leader, and I've all of these other things, right? And then I start asking myself, how is this gonna impact you in the long run, this specific event? And it could be, well, it's over now, or it could be it's not going to impact me, or it could be, well, this, puts a damper on things for a couple months or for a year or whatever. But then, that helps me to embrace, like, okay, so how long did I really set myself back, kind of mentality, to look at it with outside eyes, if that makes sense, like not wallowing in it, but okay, really, how far back did I fall, if that makes sense? And then I ask myself, will you survive it? Like, does this affect your family long-term? No. Like, yes, it set me back a little bit, maybe in financial goals or in this or that, but like, did it long-term really affect me? No. Am I going to survive it? Am I going to die in the next week because of it? No. Okay, I'm good. And like, for me, it sounds silly, but those are the questions I ask myself so that I set myself to move forward. So here's this quote from John Maxwell in his book, and I thought it was fantastic. So I'm going to read it for you. This is John talking. I believe it's nearly impossible for any person to believe that he or she is a failure and to move forward at the same time. So that's important to catch. For any person to believe that they're a failure and to move forward at the same time is impossible. For those who have been downsized, let go, bankrupt, the temptation may be to internalize that fear. But my hope is that everyone who has suffered setbacks recently will be able to separate life's unfortunate events from their self-worth. Failure, like death and taxes, will happen. Your response to failure holds the key to your future. So no matter what, in life and every relationship, and like, there's no relationship that goes 100% forward and never has any setbacks. There's like nothing in your finances that's ever going to go 100% forward and never have setbacks. Like, it doesn't matter what area you talk about. Even in your spiritual life, it's biblical. There are peaks and there are valleys. Like, God never promised us an easy life. Things are gonna happen. Life is gonna happen. So the difference between those, I wrote that wrong. The difference between failing and falling down is that those that fail stay down. This is not from John Maxwell, by the way. But if it helps, instead of looking at it as a failure, look at it as falling down. Like, everybody falls down. Toddlers fall down like 1,000,000 times a day and get back up and keep running, right? Be the toddler. Like, the difference between those that fall or fail is those that fail stay down, and the ones that fall down, they get back up. Use perceived failures as stepping stones on your way to your future success, because we all have them. Like, okay, I stepped over here and I'm going to stand here for a second because this is my first little stepping stone learning spot. Okay, then I'm going to leap over here, and then I'm going to have another stepping stone, learning spot, and then just keep hopping them all the way up, because each time you get better and better and you're learning new things. So you guys have probably seen this. We use this all the time in Beachbody, all the time. But they use it in the business world as well. And it's this picture of this diamond mine, right? And it says, first comes the dream, then comes the struggle, then there's victory. The problem is that most people give up during the struggle, never knowing how close they were to the victory. Look how ridiculous this is. So close. That line's so thin. Had he hit one more time, he would have hit diamonds, right? The only way you'll fail is if you quit. Never, never, never quit. So Becca told me this one time, and I know it's gone around the Bombshell Dynasty 1,000,000 times. So if I told you there was $1 million hidden under a rock in your backyard, but your backyard was filled with 1,000,000 rocks, 1,000,000 of them. That's a lot of rocks, guys. Okay? But you had to find the one rock that when you turned it over, you found the $1 million, right? Would you go out there and flip over, like, how many rocks would you flip over until you found that $1 million? Would you go out there and flip over 5 rocks and be like, screw this, forget it, I'm never gonna get it, and then walk back inside to drink some water and sit down and watch some TV? Would you do it for a week and then think, well, yep, nope, never gonna get there? Or would you keep going out there day after day and flipping over rocks? Like, that's what this business is. You're every day going out there and flipping over rocks. And I don't know how many rocks it's going to take until you get there. Like, for some people, it is only 5 rocks. They get these awesome coaches and their income explodes. Even as emeralds, they'll have these crazy incomes, right? But then you have other people that can be 5-star diamond, or they've been coaches for 4 years and they're still making, $200 to $300 a week. And so, like, but do they give up? Do they quit? Because they're that much closer. Like, they've already flipped over half the yard in rocks. Like, at what point do you give up? I would say you never give up until you find it. So here's some action steps for you. If you want to take a screenshot, feel free.
It's 9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock, y'all. But I'm going to explain them really fast. So write down, after this call, I want you to write down any perceived past failures. This can be just Beachbody related if you want to keep it to the business, or it can be a lesson in life and you can go back. I wouldn't do this, for your whole life. It could be a long time, if you got a C on a test in 8th grade and you're going back and talking about that. But any big failures, perceived failures in your life, okay? How did they affect you long term? Go back through each one and write, how did it affect you long term? So did it really affect you that long? That particular event, did it change your life choice, your life direction? It's possible. One of my friends, she got pregnant in 8th grade, and so that perceived failure, even though it's not really a failure, she got an awesome kid from him, but that perceived failure, yes, it changed the direction of our life, but so how did it affect you long term? Did you learn something from it? Ask yourself for each one, did you learn something from it? And what was it? And then, can you see now how it played into your life story? If you can't yet, that's okay. But chances are, 5 years later, 10 years later, whatever, those big failures or those big things that happen, you'll see how they played into your life story, how God's used them, and how they've molded you as a person. Now write down your past successes. This list should be longer. If it's not, then you're a negative Nancy and you need to think harder. So, so even if that means you're taking some of your failures and then seeing how they've flipped into being good things, but your successes should definitely be a longer list. So, how did you overcome? So if you're using something that flipped to being a good thing, how did you overcome it? What have been the impact of those successes on your future? And then what are the effects of your self-esteem because of it? And then last thing, have you been able to fail forward in the past? So have you used some of those 7 principles to be able to move forward? Did you internalize failures and start talking about yourself negatively? Or did you learn and move on? And it may be different for different situations. This is, again, a personal question. How resilient are you? That's something that we all have to work on. Your bounce back ability, I guess you could call it. And then if not, if you haven't been able to fail forward in the past, what steps do you need to improve upon to start failing forward from now on? So every time something happens, you're like, as we were going through some of those 7 principles, you're like, ooh, that's an area I need to work on. Usually you know it right away. Like as you're listening to it, you're like, ooh, yeah, need to work on that one. I know I did. So I hope that helps. I'm going to stop the recording